Hello everybody, welcome to the stream. Today we're going to look at the Elkin announcement that they had on the official Crowfall channel. It's titled Meet the Elkin, pretty straightforward. You'll notice, he starts off by mentioning, and by he I mean, Thomas Blair starts off by mentioning that they usually cover archetypes, and since they're actually splitting that up between race and class, he's been covering the classes. I believe the last one we covered was the cleric, which is a class, and basically he's switching it up, and since they're breaking it up into races and classes, he'll now have 2 times more work, so he'll be covering the races. And we're going to take a look at the Elkin. So for those who have not gotten a chance to, I would recommend or if you're interested, I would recommend reading the lore about the Elkin. If you're fascinated, or if you're interested in getting more lore, more content, Crowfall.com will have information about the races and the classes that they're separating. And one of my favorite, racial lore is the story of the Elkin, and it's actually very cool. So that's what kind of attracted me to the Elkin race. It's one of my top 3 races that they have in Crowfall, just based on lore. This is my first impression, my first time actually getting to see what the racial passes are like, what their armor looks like, actually what the finalized concept is going to look like. So let me go through the content as he's describing it. So you mentioned this is the first time they're revealing the race, and we get to see how they're going to cover races in the future, right? So you get a chance to see some Elkin racial gear. First one is obviously bear. Second one looks like a very basic cloth, or maybe this is like very basic armor. This one looks like it would be more of a ranger, or let me see. Okay, so this one's plate. This is chain, I believe. All right. Plate mail. Chain mail. This looks like it's leather, and this looks like it's cloth. That's my guess. But looks pretty cool. I know that they have to make custom armor especially for the helmets and everything like that. And the actual, leg armor is going to have to be fairly similar to like the centaur leg armor, just based on their the anatomy of the deer. So they start talking about racial disciplines. How does race work? Well, race is presented like a discipline, basically. He says if you look at this, it's kind of familiar if you've actually seen the disciplines. You have your titles, and he talks about the stat bonuses, and so they wanted to make something that was a little bit more impactful in terms of selecting a race, rather than just having race be a cosmetic choice like a lot of games kind of provide. So let's take a look at the Elkin runestone, aka the Elkin racial passives and active abilities that are granted. So that's what kind of makes them different. So based on the race, you get a few active abilities that you may equip, and then you have a free active, aka 4th passive, that you can't unequip. It's always active based on the race. So we'll take a look at the Elkin abilities here. So the Elkin receive an attribute bonus to both strength and constitution. They receive a perception bonus, which is applied when they use any reveal stealth power. Perception bonus is like the opposite of stealth perception. So if you use any like detection abilities, perception increases that. So they gain an increase of range on any range power they activate, which would be pretty cool for, like I mentioned previously, like an Elkin Confessor would be pretty cool. And additionally, they get a Bloodline Power, a free passive. So Bloodline Power is, like I said, the racial passive that can't be unequipped. It's just granted in terms of based on your race selection. So this free passive for the Elkin is going to be called Trailmaster. This passive increases your out-of-combat movement speed by 25%. So this is definitely a convenience. I know that like centaurs and Elkin are supposed to be naturally faster runners than humans. And that makes sense. They're more like beast-like. And the anatomy is just a little bit more supportive of that. Now, they're bipeds, which means they're on 2 legs, so that's kind of interesting. That they can move faster than the humanoid counterparts, but that's pretty interesting nonetheless. So this race offers 2 active powers, which you could choose to add to your power tray or not. You can kind of see here: headbutt, charge forward, target stun, target suffer knockdown, and then Gestalt, limited duration, can see stealth. So this is just stealth protection. So headbutt is used or hold to activate input module. So when used, it will cause your Elkin to charge forward, dealing damage and knocking down any enemies caught in your path. I believe the Minotaur Myrmidon had something like this. The second power, Gestalt, activates an effect called Shadow Sight for 8 seconds. When a character has Shadow Sight active, they'll be able to spot nearby stealth characters within a local radius. The area of effect will be increased based on your perception stat. As one might expect, increasing your perception will increase effective distance of this reveal. Perception is the opposing stat to stealth. Stat on any character. The distance at which a character can be seen or remain hidden depends on the interaction between these 2 opposing stats. So as a reminder, the Elkin race will be able to play the following classes: Ranger, Knight, Confessor, and Templar. The powers above, both active and passive, will be available to all Elkin characters regardless of class. Cool, so this one is what the Knight and Templar will look like, the one on the left. Pretty sweet. Actually, the Elkin warriors look really, really cool. I just think that they wear plate really, really well, especially because they're like a beast, and then they have these really, really sweet antlers. That's just awesome. It just goes so, it matches so well with like a very aggressive type of melee character. Huh. Excuse me. Elkin Confessors are pretty interesting. I don't know if I'd wear a plate, but Elkin Confessors could be pretty interesting just based on the lore. Read the lore, and you'll know what I'm talking about. I get pretty excited about that idea of an Elkin Confessor. That's pretty cool. Range projectiles, right? Can travel a little bit farther, which would be pretty interesting. And then you have the Ranger. Again, range projectiles traveling a little bit farther. And then you got your summary. So that was a pretty short update. I just want to go ahead and add this update into you guys while we got it in and we can discuss it. The art style is really, really cool, and I'm glad we got to actually see some renderings of the Elkin. I'll be excited to get it in game and then see how it looks in game. But until then, you know, stay tuned for more content. I'll be covering content like this. I haven't really been covering content in the actual game, just because I don't think, you know, it's worth covering 5.1 right now. They're in the process of testing or early testing 5.2, and I know that some of the early alpha groups have access in. Some of my a few of my guildmates are actually currently in right now. I'm in the beta test group, so I'll have access shortly after them, and we'll hop in 5.2 campaign worlds, and then we'll get a little bit more hands-on look at the content there. So stay tuned, and you know, hopefully we'll see you guys next time. This video is kind of a little bit short and sweet, and that's kind of intentional, just to cover content. I'll make sure I cover more content as I get it, and we'll keep everybody in the loop. And here's to hoping that 5.2 comes out sooner than later, so that I can actually hop in and actually show you guys what's going on. Okay, all right, thanks guys. Thanks for stopping by, and thank you for all the support. I will catch you guys later. Peace out.